the future, an alien race known as the Formics invades the Earth and wipes out most of humanity. The invasion is stopped by a pilot named Mazer, who sacrifices his life to fly his plane into a Formics queen. Over the next 50 years, an international navy is created that recruits children to become soldiers and one day lead a new fleet to counterattack. The children are trained in war games and monitored by monitors attached to their necks. One of the best players was Ender, whose skills sometimes made other children think he was cheating, but he never gave in to provocations. Colonel Graff believes that Ender is the hero they need, but Major Anderson is skeptical because they need leadership as well as fighting skills. One afternoon, Ender is called to the infirmary to have the monitor removed, meaning he is out of the program. After the painful procedure, Ender is surrounded by jealous kids who drag him into class, accuse him of cheating, and are about to beat him up. Now that he no longer has a monitor, Ender defends himself without hesitation, beating up the main bully and then threatening the others. Graff and Anderson watch all of this through other cameras, and Graff is proud of Ender's reaction. When Ender returns home, he tells his sister Valentina what happened and feels guilty for reacting so harshly because he does not want to be like his brother Peter, who was also kicked out of the program for bad behavior. Valentina tries to calm Ender down, but their conversation is interrupted by Peter, who has come to challenge Ender to a fight for being kicked out too, but Ender doesn't react and is left alone. Later at dinner, Ender's parents try to remind him that there is nothing to be ashamed of, but then Graff and Anderson knock on their door. It turns out that the check on the monitor was a test to see how Ender would act without him. After some questions, they confirm that he passed the test because his decision to beat up the other boy was tactical. He fought not because he enjoyed hurting others, but so that they would not bother him anymore. Graff believes that Ender has a sharp mind like Mazer and wants him to come back. If he agrees, he can go to battle school without the monitor. Ender agrees and is taken on a shuttle to battle school with the other graduates, where Ender meets Bean, who can't hold back his vomiting as the shuttle takes off. Graff comes to check on everyone and Ender jokes, and Graff says that Ender is the smartest in the class. Everyone turns their attention to him, which is rather awkward. When they arrive at the school, Ender tells Graff that his words have made everyone hate him, but Graff explains that the army needs a leader to win the war. Later, Ender goes to his room where the students are waiting for him, teasing him for thinking he is better than everyone else. Their conversation is interrupted by Sergeant Dapp, who rather condescendingly explains the rules to them and reminds them that teamwork is the key to survival. Later, Graff reminds everyone of their responsibilities and shows a video of Mazer's victory, which Ender finds strange. The next morning, the team is taken to the gravity-free training room, and Graff makes Ender go first to set an example, and the rest of the guys quickly follow. Gradually getting used to the lack of gravity, Ender and Ben get together and decide to test out their guns, discovering that the shots freeze any part of the body they hit. After a few minutes of practice, Graff calls everyone back in and explains that this is the gym where they will be competing against other school teams. Depp then explains the rules of the game. A hit to the limb is worth 1 point, a hit to the torso is worth 6, but if one team gets at least one cadet through the other team's goal without taking damage, that team wins regardless of the score. Ender spends the next 3 months at the school, training and sending letters to Valentine, though he never receives a response. The training involves learning ant-like tactics and hand-to-hand combat, which makes them aggressive and makes Ender feel like Peter. Ender is still unsure if anyone truly understands their enemy, especially since no one really tells him how Mazer defeated the entire fleet last time. Graff tells Ender that he wants him to be a leader, but Ender doesn't know how to do that when everyone is so different and he always eats alone. One evening, Graff tells the class that some of the upper management failed to qualify for command school, so now the students in that class have a chance to get promoted. Ender asks Graff if their emails are blocked, and Graff confirms that all correspondence is temporarily suspended, because the people on Earth do not need to know what is happening here. After this, Depp makes Ender do push-ups while insulting him and reminding him that he must remain silent until spoken to. When Depp leaves, Ender is surprised to notice that the other kids now look at him with respect. The next day, the teacher announces that only 3 of them passed the space navigation test, and this is a lie because they are Ender and Bean. Bernard accuses them of cheating, so the teacher wants to check how well they have learned the material and asks Ender to show them, but he says that Bean understood the topic better and the teacher calls Bean. While Bean explains his answers, Bernard writes insults addressed to Bean, which are displayed on everyone's screens, and Ender responds in kind. The teacher overhears their squabble and tells Bernard that if he can't answer, then there is no point in starting. After lunch, the class sits at the table next to Ender, leaving Bernard behind. In the evening, Ender finds a game on the tablet and begins to play while Ellie watches him. In the game, Ender plays as a rat who must choose between 2 cups, but no matter what Ender chooses, the rat dies. He then decides to make the rat attack the troll who is distributing the cups, and this allows him to pass the level of the game. Ellie does not understand why he is doing this, and Ender explains that at the academy they are taught to be cruel. Graff and Anderson are watching the game because this is another test, and Anderson is surprised by Ender's decision because this has never happened before. This confirms Graff's opinion that Ender is the perfect soldier, and he is immediately transferred to the Salamanders team, which is famous for its invincibility. When Ender finds his new team, he meets Petro, the only girl in the Salamander squad, and Banzo, who is unhappy with Ender's appearance on the team because he thinks he is too skinny and useless. Banzo tells Ender that he will trade him as soon as he can, but for now he does not want him underfoot. During the match, Banzo wants Ender to go into the training room and stand in the corner doing nothing until the team is ready to go through the gate. Later, Petra tells Ender that the training room is open 24 hours a day and that she can help him with training if he wants. Ender agrees and the two go into the training room, where Petra shows Ender some tricks to make him a better shot. When Banzo sees them back together, he becomes furious and tells Ender that he is not allowed to train at all. Ender asks to talk to him alone and explains that he will follow Banzo's orders during training, but will not allow his free time to be controlled, and that if Banzo wants to trade him, it will happen faster if Ender improves. Ender offers a simple deal. Banzo can pretend to win the bet and then tell everyone the next day that he changed his mind, thus retaining his respect as the leader, and Ender will still spend his time the way he wants. Banzo insults Ender for being so insolent, but the next morning he does as Ender says. Later, the first match begins, and at first Ender stands in the corner as Banzo asked. But their team starts losing and Ender joins Petra to come up with a plan. Petra pushes Ender while he pretends to be frozen in fear, allowing him to steal 2 pistols and single-handedly attack the enemy, catching them off guard and claiming victory for the Salamanders. Graff watches this and is pleased to see Ender prove himself. During dinner, the other Salamanders scold Banzo for holding Ender back and humiliating him. Later, when Ender and Petra are practicing hand-to-hand combat, Banzo interrupts them to punch Ender and threaten to kill him if he makes a fool of him again. When it's time to go to bed, Ender turns on the game on his tablet again, and the rat finds a bug-like creature that wants him to do something, but he doesn't understand what it is. The creature then transforms into Valentina, who suddenly runs away when the area is attacked. The rat follows Valentine into a ruined building and, after turning into Ender, he finds a strange sphere with Valentine inside in the middle of the room. The carpet then turns into a monster and attacks Ender's avatar, causing Peter to appear in the sphere and call Ender a murderer. Terrified, Ender immediately closes the game. Meanwhile, Graff is furious with Anderson because he believes that her game is pushing Ender's mental state to the limit. Anderson explains that she does not understand how the images got into the game and that she cannot change them, so Graff makes her delete the game entirely. Graff then decides to speed up the program in order to make it in time. He calls Ender into his office and asks if he would like to lead his own team, the Dragon Army, whose name was retired 4 years ago because they could not win. Graff thinks that Ender could have his own team of weirdos like him, and Ender agrees. After Depp shows Ender his new place and finally starts treating him with respect, Ender meets his new team, which includes Li Bing and Bernard. Ender surprises everyone by demanding mutual respect and to be informed of any ideas they may have because teamwork is the most important thing. From then on, Ender keeps his team working hard, and soon they are in 3rd place in the team rankings. Anderson reminds Graff that the higher-ups are in a hurry and want a decision on which team will participate in the tournament to be made today. But Graff is not happy that the Dragons have not yet taken 1st place. To fix this, Graff suggests something that has never been done before, a battle between 3 teams including the 3 first-place Dragons, Salamanders, and Leopards. The team suddenly finds out about this and in a hurry to prepare, one of the guys hurts his ankle and Ender sends him to the infirmary and prepares for this test with a smaller team, but fortunately Graff sends Petra as a replacement. Ender sends Petra with a boy as a shield so that she can shoot everyone at the gate. He then ties Bean to a rope and sends him out to scout the area to get enough information for Ender to formulate a plan. The entire crew becomes a human shield for Lee and they march straight to the opposing goal, winning the game. After the game, Banzo approaches Ender in the showers and asks him to fight. Ender, reluctant, has no choice and defends himself by accidentally pushing Banzo so hard that he hits his head on the floor. The unconscious Banzo is immediately taken to the infirmary for surgery. Anderson and Petra try to calm Ender down, but Graff orders them to leave him alone. Graff swears that Banzo will survive, but Ender does not believe him and Graff admits that Banzo will be sent back to Earth to recover. Ender wants to go with him and see his sister, but Graff refuses to give him a leave of absence and Ender quits. Anderson later chastises Graff for not seeing his students as the children they are, but Graff reminds her that she must see them as soldiers if they want humanity to survive. Sometime later on Earth, Valentina comes home to find Graff there, asking her for a favor. Valentina knows that Graff wants to use her to force Ender to rejoin the army, and Graff simply replies that he wants Ender to save lives. Graff then brings Valentina to Ender, who takes her on a boat ride so they can talk privately. Ender explains that he finds it hard to ruin lives because he must love his enemy to understand him. Valentina reminds him that the hit on Banzo was in self-defense and explains that she will not try to convince him to return, as Graff wants, but she thinks Ender is here because he is afraid, saying that he cannot hide here forever and that if he does not try, all will be lost. Ender agrees to rejoin the army, but only if Graff will no longer block his email. Instead of returning to military school, Ender is sent to the command base located near the bug planet, where he has earned the right to take the final test. If all goes well, Ender will lead the entire invasion fleet. This base is on a planet that used to belong to the Formics, but the humans drove them out almost 30 years ago. Ender doesn't understand why they need to continue attacking the Formics if they are locked on their planet, and Graff explains that it is to prevent them from attacking again in the future for the same reason Ender beat up those students a few months ago. Depp shows Ender his new room, which has an oxygen tank in case of an evacuation. The next morning, Ender is awakened by the sudden appearance of a strange tattooed man, who attacks him and reminds him that you can't trust anyone, not even your teachers. This man turns out to be Mazer, who turned out not to be dead. Ender tells him what is bothering him. When the video of Mazer's victory is shown, it ends right after he destroys the ship, and Ender doesn't understand why. Mazer shows Ender the full recording and explains that after Mazer destroyed the main ship, the other alien ships stopped attacking and started falling from the sky. Mazer explains that it is not for nothing that Formics are compared to ants. They also depend on their queen, and if the queen is not in line, the rest cannot think for themselves and die. The reason for keeping this secret is because they are not 100% sure that Mazer destroyed the queen's ship, which means they cannot rely on this strategy yet. But if the Formics have rebuilt their fleet, then there must be another queen on their home planet, and the only reason they left was to find water. Mazer then takes Ender to meet the team that will be helping him during training. Bernard, Bean, Petra, and Lee join in. Then Mazer shows the team how the Formics are building up their military power, which is alarming, so they will have to attack first to prevent the Formics from flying away again, even if Ender thinks it is unfair to attack creatures that keep to themselves. The training will begin with photorealistic simulations as close as possible to real battles, and Ender will command the overall strategy, which he will pass on to his teammates. Each of them will command a battle group consisting of drones. The most important thing is to protect the MD-500, a weapon capable of destroying molecular bonds, and Petra knows how to use it. Ender and his team go through the first few simulations without problems, winning one victory after another, but the simulations become more difficult and realistic, and after several months of intense training, Ender loses his first battle. Mazer yells at Ender for his failure, and when Ender says he can't win if he doesn't take risks, Mazer replies that Ender, needs to focus on the big picture and leave the petty fights to his team. Graff also explains that Mazer is upset because he has coached many teams in the past and they have all lost, but Ender will be the last one because there is no time to train others. The leadership decides that tomorrow will be Ender's final simulation, and if he wins, he will command the real fleet. That evening, Ender talks to Petra, explaining that he does not want to fight and that he wishes he could talk to their enemies to understand them better. Petra reminds him that studies of the ant bodies have shown that they have no vocal cords and cannot be talked to. The next morning, Ender and his crew prepare for the final simulation with Graff, Mazer, and other high-ranking officials watching. The simulation will take place on the ant homeworld, and they immediately see the enemy fleet. Ender orders everyone to attack the alien swarm, but this only causes the ant fleet to abandon the planet and go after them. Since the MD-500 needs time to recharge, Ender copies the strategy he used in the war room and surrounds their main weapon with other smaller ships like a shield. Then he orders Petra to fly the MD-500 towards the planet. And as they enter the atmosphere, the shield starts to burn and Ender asks Bean to send drones to deal with the approaching swarm so that they can have at least some chance of survival. When the MD-500 recharges and is close enough, Ender orders Petra to fire the weapon, which destroys all life on the planet and wins the battle. The crew celebrates their victory, but Ender becomes worried when he notices that they can still see the planet burning. Both Mazer and Graff come to congratulate Ender and thank him for saving humanity, because it was not a simulation but reality. Ender immediately falls into despair when he realizes that he abandoned his soldiers, used them as human shields, and wiped out an entire species that was probably just preparing to defend itself, as they had not returned to Earth in 50 years. The others try to call Ender a hero, but he only sees himself as a murderer. Ender begins to lose his temper, so a nurse gives him an injection to put him to sleep and he is taken to a room where Petra is looking after him. In his dreams, Ender sees the creature from the game and realizes that it is the former queen, who is protecting the sphere in the building and has always tried to communicate with him through dreams. Finally realizing what she needs, Ender wakes up and runs out of the room to leave the base, and Petra has to go after him to give him oxygen before he dies. Ender is grateful to her, but sends her away because he has to do it himself, and then enters the destroyed building where they find the queen ant with the sphere, which is actually an egg. The ants never intended to fight the humans, they were just looking for water for their babies. The queen comes closer and puts her paw on Ender, but lets him go when she sees that he means no harm. Realizing that the queen is dying, Ender takes the egg, promising to find a good home for it. The war is over, Ender is promoted to admiral and given a small ship as a reward, which he uses to go into deep space and start a new colony with the egg to atone for his sins. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching.